Good day, everyone. This is Paula Hodgson. I'm going to present a paper on COVID-19 pandemic, a threat or an opportunity to make an impact on teaching and learning in tertiary education. Today, I'm going to first go through the introduction, background of the study, methodology, results, its implications, and conclusion of this paper. As we know, today we are going through a big challenge. First, we know that the world has started with a lot of automation and AI embedded into our practices. But what does it mean? It means the way how we work will have much influence by robots because there's so much that we can work with robots together. But does it affect the way how we teach and learn? Well, in the past, we'll think maybe. Now we have to think, no, we don't need to think. This is the way of working. Let me get you back to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is such a highly densely populated place that we have experienced a pandemic in the past. It's called SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, in 2003. So in those days, we were advised to wash hands and wear face masks and only have 1 month's clothes in schools. So everything back to normal afterwards. Now we see kids of generations use mobile phone in all kinds of different sorts of situations. And in the transportation, we see how crowded it can be. And that's the way how we work. But then, if we look at the teaching environment, it's still very basic, if not classical, I would say, people-to-people interaction. However, during COVID-19, the first semester B in 2019 to 2020, we encountered a very severe blow to this pandemic. So schools closed since March, and the government advised us to wash hands, wear face masks. However, we could not keep the spaces apart in school. That's why we have to run online classes. In the college, we have 3 different platforms: WebEx, Zoom, and Conference. These studies, we use a survey to ask students' experience and teachers' experience on this teaching section. As we collect the survey result, we use SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to analyze all these responses. At the same time, we use the software called NVivo to track back the original script from these responses. So I'm going to talk about the results of this study in 2 dimensions. One is on student learning, the other is on online teaching. In the students, we know there is the strength part on this remote learning experience because they can learn safely and at the same time very flexibly. So some students said, well, online learning experience, well, it's satisfactory, even though they couldn't see their friends. But they can still communicate with the teachers and the peers through the online platform. But that's not the story. There are a lot of issues and problems. Predominantly, it's the bandwidth. The low bandwidth internet connection cause a lot of disconnections when they attend the classes. And some students, they don't really have a camera in their notebook, and so they have to use their phone and their notebook together as they attend the class. And for mainland students, they have to connect with the VPN in order to get connected. And often the connection is very poor. And the other part is the human factor. And students just feel that this is too much to learn the new platform. And we know some students are more keen to use technology, but they're not keen to use the technical part of the system. So they feel quite exhausted as they go through classes after class in front of the notebook. And often if they have to work in groups, it's not that easy to form groups, even though they are connected, but sometimes students didn't really work together well in that context. And at home, particularly in Hong Kong, there's huge demand in terms of the space that with family member and also the competition of the network used in the family. So it's quite a difficult challenge. And as they review the opportunity, we know that the best part is that with the recorded classes, students can review the recorded lectures or topics again and again, even though they may experience some kind of interruptions in the internet. For many majority of students, English is not their first language, but the sessions are conducted in English, so they can slower the pace as they review the recorded lectures. And if they encounter any challenges in the concept, they can go back and review again. Some students, even though they have gone through this sort of difficult time to learn, and they find ways to go around to solve the problem. For example, they can't get books from the library, so they learn how to just read electronic books, if not more electronic resources from the internet. And surely they can make better opportunities to connect with the teachers through online consultations. And they find some space or some area that they might get better network connection, and they can also use their mobile phone data as they are studying the classes. As I mentioned, they have to do or to attend different sort of different platform. So as they exposed to different platforms, they found out actually one, if not two platform, is better than the third platform. So you can see from the comment. Very good for WebEx, very friendly. And some say Zoom connection is better than Canvas conference. And surely for students from China, they find it is easier to use Zoom. What about threats? Yeah. Students find that online learning it can be fun, but at the same time, if they want to see the family environment, see the background of where they live, they feel a concern of the privacy was intruded. And they were very anxious if they are taking an online test and suddenly there might be some interruption with the internet. Then they feel very anxious when there's any that kind of technical problem. And that's very common that students pay full attention to marks and grades, like any students. And that they find that if they have to do live presentation and debate, maybe they may not be fairly assessed because of the interruption of the network. So generally, they think some would find that the quality of learning is not as good as in the classroom, as you can imagine. They said, oh, at home I can be too comfortable. Oh, it just made me feel more lazier. Huh. Okay, that's about student learning. What about teaching? The teaching part is, teachers all upskill themselves. And as they teach with this system, many teachers reported that they found students are more responsive in a way that they raise more questions than in the classroom. And for some teachers who might teach large classes, as they form breakout rooms, even large classes, they can do it. And there are more interaction between students. For the weakness, generally, is of course, is the technical part. As the first time use some platform, there are security problem. They may not be familiar with the buttons where to click and forgot to get things recorded. And of course, as teachers, you know what video can use for, because video can be very stimulating too. But somehow they cannot use it because the bandwidth. And some teachers have said, oh, I just like to talk to people. I don't like talking through a computer. And even though they know they can connect with students, but because without seeing their faces, they are not so sure if the students are there. And so it's harder for them to adjust the pace for teaching. Nevertheless, some teachers are more creative in this kind of environment. They think that, well, video can be quite bandwidth taxing. So what they do is they can record the teaching and even record in two languages. And by the time when they meet in the class time, the virtual time, they discuss. They don't just talk about what to learn, but do a lot of classroom discussion. And as we mentioned earlier on that teachers still observe there are more students raising questions. The reason is for this kind of platform, students can pose questions privately. and some students do send questions to the public, to the whole class, and the peers are influencing each other, so they make more questions. And with this kind of platform, believe it or not, it's not just about talking. They can use other collaborative tools such as Padlet or Miro, and students can do work together and compile more things together, just even through the platform, without just passively listening to the lectures. And some students in China, they say, well, perhaps we can use other mobile apps such as Ding or Tencent Meeting. Well, having said all this sort of possibility, assessment is certainly another thing that these teachers can do differently. Apart from setting quizzes and online discussions, they can set up groups. They can present asynchronously, or they can choose their online virtual gallery to allow students to post up their poster, their work, and then students can do peer review through this online platform. And nevertheless, there are threat elements in. One is the infrastructure. We find that even teachers teaching in a campus, the campus infrastructure may not be compatible with the online system. And nevertheless, it's about technical competence. Some teachers still find it's not comfortable to do it online. Okay, what does it imply? Yes, we know the world has changed. We see the big company like JP Morgan, Twitter, and Microsoft. They start changing the working practices. Some employees can work from home. And for us in Hong Kong, we still are encountering the COVID. And here you can see the whole sort of period, ups and downs. The hour factors is going up and down. So the COVID is not going away soon. What we need to do is considering upgrade the system on campus and also the infrastructure. And it's not just the technical part. We need to think through the teaching component. According to the Horizon Report 2019, it's time to rethink how we teach. Apart from you doing like a flipped classroom, creating short videos, we should cut down the lecture, the single one-directional sort of mode of learning. We can create more interactive, synchronous and asynchronous collaborative work. By the time when they really in the class, hopefully, that they are doing problem solving, doing more creative work, so it's not passively learning in the classroom. For the assessment, time to rethink the possibility of e-assessment, doing e-portfolio, virtual gallery, online simulation, you name it. So, come to the point. When we think about a possibility, we know there are many opportunities for us to reimagine how we teach. Remote learning seems things in this crisis moment. But let me say, this is not a temporary solution. We are building an environment that creates our future graduates to have the possibility for the global career pathway. So by doing it with good pedagogy and the possibility of this synchronous virtual learning processes, we are simulating the workplace in the future. As I mentioned, the big company like Twitter, Microsoft, they start to have the work from home, but at the same time, a lot of remote meetings continuously happening. So in the college, we build this possibility is to get them to think how we create our students through this kind of virtual and face-to-face learning experience, despite the geographical limitation. But nevertheless, technical support is crucial. We need to assure that they are technically prepared. At the same time, we need to know this is the new way of teaching because we know our students are facing and ever encountering challenges in their future. And this is our presentation. If you have any more questions, you can email me or Professor Lee in Weimar. We'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.